All right. Shalom. First and foremost, we give all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world calls Christ, Yahweh Shai.
My bad, I didn't know.
No, yeah, we see you. Brother Chief Priest Alice Alba Lawyer, aka the Gorilla Hebrew.
Brother Side.
Waiting on my esteemed colleague Deacon Akar. I believe Sergeant Yatab Daraj should be joining us as well. If it be the will of the Most High.
Make sure y'all like and share the video. Everywhere.
You will, Ayash. What will Yahweh Shai do? Okay. That's the question. Answer, John 15 and 10. Oh, the deacon.
Hey, you want to know what's crazy? I came in at 7:44. Lord in Christ.
Yeah. Shalom. Shalom. He said Vocab and Mike already disliked it.
Shots out, shots out, shots out. I got my. Oh. Okay. Is your time coming on? If not, then
supposed to, but
he should have been you know, he might have forgot. He might have forgot we even talked about this.
Within 5 minutes. Huh?
Not quick. I wonder if I can log out. Not log out, but click off of this and search the web while I'm on here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm doing it from my phone now, so I could click out of there and go online at the same time. So that should be good. But now I don't know how to get back there. Can you still hear me?
I hear you now, yeah.
Oh man, dang.
Cushite believer. No, I'm not familiar with that group, people group. Where the hell this dude go? That's the point. You don't advertise my website today. It's a Shabbat, so we're not advertising the website. We're not advertising tonight. Shabbat Shalom. Ashar Kadash on this new moon.
Yeah, I guess I won't be clicking out of here again.
Yeah, or you'll be gone, pal.
All right, let's just get started then.
All right,
Did you text him, or you want me to?
just text him. He's got the link though. I'll text it to him.
You texted to his phone?
Come.
Okay, he didn't answer, so
Tell you
look at this.
Israel, Anunnaki is fake, man. Y'all got to stop with this. Listen, deal with this. Look, you see this right here? Deal with this first, okay? A lot of y'all don't understand 10% of this, and you going into the Enoch and the Anunnaki. Deal with this, man.
I know one thing, Anunnaki got their ass whooped.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a Snapple fact. If there's, you know what I mean? The Anakims, all the Kims, the various giants. All right?
Hey, first by Abraham, then by us.
Bring that out, brother.
Yeah, but he didn't answer, so.
All right, well, let's go then.
All right.
Welcome to Fringe Pop 321, the show that believes the world is stranger than we think,
Daniel Romero, Tawada, Yalba, Shemel, Sharp, Time.
but thinking should not be strange. We have Vocab Malone back with us, and
Yo, how's the audio, real quick? How's the audio on that video? Because I had a half a mind.
It sounds good on my end. You gotta ask them.
What the hell? It sound good? They said good. All right, cool. All praises. Let's go.
we're talking about Black Hebrew Israelites. And what I want to get into this time is, what are the core doctrinal beliefs of this group? So their theology. What is it that they believe that we ought to know about?
Well, I've got a little list here.
A whole list, like a systematic theology. Okay.
Although I don't know if we could use the word systematic,
Right.
but yeah, something like that. So the first thing is presupposition that then matters for later on, which is the physical lineage of all peoples has significant theological implications.
Okay.
And
Stop. Now,
Stop. You know the whole thing? I can't stop. Make it stop. That's exactly how that sounded. But that was right where we needed to stop it at.
that was great. So he's saying that we believe and teach that everybody's nationality and ethnicity is important to the Bible, basically, is what he's saying. And that's scriptural.
Theology. I mean, and here's the crazy thing, right? To this assertion that Christians have is so unbiblical. It's crazy. When you look in scripture, right? When we go to scripture and we take a look at context, historical context is of extreme importance. The historical context scripturally, right? Give me the God of Chemosh. Just give me different gods in the Bible. Just give me a couple scriptures on it. Right, so we can just deal with that real quick, because these were people group, these were nations of people, the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Israelites, the Egyptians, and each nation had a deity that was specific to it. and served a deity that was pertinent to their people. So yes, physical descendancy plays in theology. That's what the Bible is built on. Eric Howard, yeah, go ahead.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 33. Because that they have forsaken me, have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians.
So Ashtoreth is the goddess of the Zidonians. There's no problem with the Zidonians worshiping Ashtoreth, because that is the god that is pertinent to where they live, where they come. That's the god of their ancestors. Read.
Chemosh, the god of the Moabites.
The Moabites, there's no problem with them worshiping Chemosh or Chemosh. Why? Because that is the deity that's pertinent to their nation. Right? Not saying, again, I'm not contending as to whether there's ontological existence of any of these deities. I'm just saying that these people had an understanding that these deities were their gods, and there was no biblical objection by the Most High in the historical context of them worshiping those things. But he said, my people, the Israelites, are going to worship me. That's what he said. So there has always been a national implication on theology. A physical descendancy on theology. What would the contention of that be? Oh, well, you had people come and worship the Most High Yahweh who were not Israelites. Okay, I'm not saying that people who were not Israelites didn't come and sacrifice at the temple of Yahweh. There's no disputation there. What I'm saying is that there were national deities that existed in the region in which the Israelites lived for centuries. And the way that the scope and the way that politics was understood at that time was by the particular deities that were pertinent to the nations in and around Israel. This is a historical, indisputable fact. Lord Israel, Yahweh Shem Yahushua Barakatah Watawata. This is a historical fact. This is biblically precedented. This is historically precedented. When a nation went to war with another nation and they defeated them, they would declare that defeat as a defeat of the deity that pertained to that nation. This cannot be disputed. So when did it begin to where nationality did not have a theological implication? That is not a Middle Eastern or Afro-Asiatic concept, and that's where the Bible comes from, the Afro-Asiatic mind. See, there's so much that has to be neglected in order for what Christians believe to make sense. I'm going to bring in Sergeant Yatai real quick. Sergeant Yatai, man, you good?
Shalom, shalom. I'm here.
Shalom, you're in the building.
Hey, you could click. You want to show your camera, or you can click your camera icon, your video icon, and it'll exit out your camera.
Like yours.
You got to. You have to go out, then come back in to do that. You got to click edit your avatar when you come in. When you're in the backstage, you got to click edit avatar, and it'll say upload an image, and you just upload an image.
Okay.
So you back in, or okay, come. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead with that precept, and we're gonna get back to the
I got a scripture after he's done.
All right, go ahead.
Exodus 12:12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord.
See, against the gods of Egypt. When he went to war with Egypt, he said he went to war with the gods, with those idols that they serve, with that pantheon, with that Memphite pantheon, with that Heliopolis pantheon that they have over there in Egypt. Zechariah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Shem Yahushua Barakatah Watawata. He went to war against that. So this is the Afro-Asiatic thought process of going to war with somebody. You're going to war with the deities that they worship.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, that is the thought process that's in the Bible. Where in the hell do you get off disputing the very thing that the Bible is founded upon?
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got another one just to perfectly back up what the brother's bringing out. This is Jeremiah chapter 48. You read this whole chapter is basically talking about the destruction of Moab. Jeremiah chapter 48, verse 46. Woe be unto thee, O Moab, the people of Chemosh.
These are people. This is a nationality. It's a people group, and they have a deity that is pertinent to them. Go ahead.
It says, woe be unto thee, O Moab, the people of Chemosh perisheth, for thy sons are taken captives, and thy daughters captives.
Yeah, I'm going to bring this lesson back out. I might even go into it somewhat tonight. And it's called a lesson I did maybe 2 years ago. And I titled it the consortial relationship between deities and their people, right? The consortial relationship, right? What is a consort? That means like a significant other, right? Like a a husband's wife would be his consort, right? So in some places, like to the Canaanites, the consort of Baal is Asherah, right? From the Israelite perspective, the way the Torah is set up, the consort of our God, the Most High Yahweh, is us, is Israel. We're the consort because there's a consortial relationship. What does that mean when there's a consortial relationship? That means there was a covenant, a marriage covenant that was entered into between the two parties. That's called the Torah. So that is pertinent to us. So this has always been, it's always been pertinent upon our theology, our nationality, bro. That's crazy, man. Go ahead, Deacon. Okay.
Oh, Salakia, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
I muted myself. Now look, let me show you guys something real quick.
They work their way through the rest of the Bible because all of those incidents, and even going back to the creation of humanity,
Watch
have
this.
one thing in common, and that is they
Watch we get Dr. Michael Heiser, who believes ethnicity plays a major part in theology. So he's just looking at, I'm gonna have you get this video. You should pull it up on your thing. It's called let me send it to you. Let me get the minute mark. Hold on.
If I can find it quick on the Google, just do it that way. That'll be easier.
Yeah, it's called Dr. Heiser discusses gods of the nations. So,
so Dr. Michael is familiar with this concept I'm talking about. Very familiar, apparently.
he's looking at vocab like, you idiot. The ethnicity and theology play a significant part, and they run parallel, hand in hand with each other.
Get this back up.
So let's see what minute mark he just to get the best sound bite, right?
Oh.
Word from our in-house.
Is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
that's it.
A word from our in-house scholar, Dr. Heiser, and Dr. Daniel Hawk on Joshua.
Look at him.
That's not a child.
That's the unsub. All right. Stroll boogie, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah Bragatah Wat the water. That's the damn unsub right there. Right or wrong, Deacon?
Khan, he's the unsub. You can play it from the beginning, but let me.
He's an unsub and he's an incel. All right.
Okay, start at 1:30. And this is, and I had to call Alizar because I said Michael Heiser goes deep off into how the other nations have their own gods, but they'll sit up. He's not monotheistic, but Vocab is. But they'll sit up together for the sake of just trying to destroy Israelites, right? To come against us, as it is prophesied that they will come together with one consent, right? So go ahead and at 1:30 on the other video.
believed that the gods of the nations that they talk about so much were real. And we tend to think that they're just idols, but that is not what a biblical writer thought.
You see that?
Now, isn't this vocab jump that just try to decapitate our brother Ron Divine Prospect?
Wow.
Him for making this, for saying this same thing. Vocab has a sternly stood in opposition to this opinion, yet the man he's sitting on a couch with to defame and slander us, he believes the same thing. That's crazy, man.
And brothers got to understand. Excuse me. Brothers got to understand that too, which I was discussing with this brother last night. Well, yeah, it says there are no gods because at the end of the day, they're not on the level as the Most High. But these gods, like you was going into Kimash, these nations have the left hand demonic sides, right? Not the right hand, because that's only the power of Israel. So let's go ahead and keep playing. Let's hear a little bit of what he's saying, and then we can jump back on the video. I didn't want to get too much off topic, but I know for a fact Michael Heiser believes the exact same thing as us when it comes to ethnicity and theology.
Sure.
To understand a little bit about the logic of idolatry. For instance, if we go back to the Tower of Babel incident, why are they building a tower? Well, the ziggurat was part of a temple complex in the ancient world.
Look, I ain't gonna lie, he's deep. He's deep. He knows the Tower of Babel was a ziggurat. So he it's him and
I advise Salakia. No, but I advise brothers to kind of check him out to see his his theist perspective, meaning
He's got some good information as far as I go.
his God theology. Go ahead.
Matter of fact, I think Divine has cited Michael Heiser against the Christians before, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. Yeah, because he's got to know. Divine's got to know about this guy.
Well, of course.
You built that thing so that you could use it to sort of call the deity to you, and then you could have some sort of relationship with it. And God said, this is not who I am. You don't get to dictate the terms of our relationship. But this is what's going on in Babel. So when God punished them, they dispersed the nations, divided up the populations in all the languages. We know that story just to that point. But in Deuteronomy 32, we get the rest of the story. It says, when the Most High did that, when the Most High divided up the nations, he divided them up according to the number of the sons of God. Now that's the ESV translation, and it is the correct translation. You might have another version, and in your version, you probably have a footnote, something like Sons of God, Dead Sea Scrolls, Septuagint. The ESV actually takes the Dead Sea Scroll reading and puts it right into its running translation. That is what happened. God divided up the nations and he parcels them out. He divides them up among the sons of God. Well, who are the sons of God? Well, they're divine beings. Now, if you
okay, so
through the rest of the book of Deuteronomy, you'll find.
Okay, so that's it on that. Point being is, if you could run that back, so the audience, not that part, but when Vocab tried to make that outlandish claim, if you could run that back, then we'll just keep it running from there.
This is that the people.
No, from their interview video.
Oh, Salami.
What ethnic group you're born into matters in God's sight. It has ecclesiastical implications.
Wait.
No, hold on. That's literally what Michael Heiser just said.
It has eschatological implications, and it, most important, I think, has salvific implications.
Right, so it's almost like elect and non-elect based on your physical lineage.
Yes.
Well, I mean, kind of just like what the Bible says. Precept, go ahead.
Numbers 24:17. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. So, who you descend from certainly has importance.
You're going to get smitten by this star.
Yeah, Yatab, you want to chime in, or you just listening?
Yeah, no, I'm just listening.
All right.
I'm gonna chime in.
Describe the 12 tribes chart of Israel that the One West Hebrew Israelites use as these are potentially elect peoples, and the 18 nations chart as the non-elect peoples.
Yeah, and we should mention too that if that term, the chart, is not familiar to viewers, they can watch the previous episode. So, what else?
Secondly, most descendants whose ancestors were subject to the unjust horrors of the transatlantic slave trade are the true Israelites. I saw one time that said, if you came over here on a slave ship, you're an Israelite. That's sort of the simple way to say it.
Right. But
since we're talking about One West Hebrew Israelism, the 12 tribes chart also includes Native Americans.
Oh, see, look, you see that? You see, this is what they do, and what the devils do. You got to catch them, because what they're doing is they're separating the Native American and the Latino from the transatlantic slave trade, when the transatlantic slave trade began with the Native American and Latino. That was the trans part. The Boricua being sent from Puerto Rico, the Boricua being sent from Puerto Rico back to Spain is the transatlantic slave trade. You understand what I'm saying? The first part was the Portuguese going and kidnapping people from the coastal West Africa in 1441 and bringing them back to Portugal. But that's not trans. That's the Atlantic, but that's not trans. It became trans with the importation of so-called Puerto Rican Taino Indian slaves being taken from Puerto Rico and being brought to Spain. Now it's trans. So there is no separation between the Native American, the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and the transatlantic slave trade. They were also the victims of that and said travesty. Okay? So let's never get that misconstrued.
And it also includes Hispanics. Interestingly enough, you have this religion and make a big deal out. You know, Christianity is a Roman white pagan thing. This is truly for our people. But here's what's interesting, Mike. When you look at the chart, you have Judah. Judah is the so-called Black Americans. The Benjamites are like Jamaicans and folks in that region. Mm-hmm. And pretty much the rest of the chart, for the most part, is composed of basically peoples not of African descent. Meaning,
okay.
Wow.
Hold on, let's
on the 12 tribes chart, Black folks are actually a minority on the chart that they've created.
Here's another problem. Here's another problem in his he has a presupposition in regards to it. Who said it was about being African or people being Black? Number one, we're all various shades of brown. This is what Israel's always been. But see, when you start to misconstrue white supremacist race concepts with what we're saying, which is nationality, then you begin to get confused. But to even assert that quote unquote Negro people, right, which is even a false concept in and of itself, are the minority, why is there Negro groups amongst all of the other people that's listed on the chart? Amongst the Dominican, amongst the Puerto Rican, amongst the Cuban, amongst the Central American, amongst the South American, amongst the Argentine. What about the Afro-Argentine? So even that is a false statement that he made. You see what I'm saying?
Look how deep they go into looking at what we're doing, though. I mean, they're putting an in-depth look at it. Well, the Negroes aren't even they're a minority on the chart they've created. Like, damn, man, you guys just wow, man.
They're going in depth, but still misrepresenting us. You're taking this deep look at us, yet still you misrepresent us. And what's crazy is Vocab doesn't tend to misrepresent us as much as other people, but throughout as far as this interview's been going on, he's only misrepresented us. Damn near.
And I let you know he's doing that on purpose. He's doing that for a reason. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 6, verse 12, and then we'll jump to 14. A naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a forward mouth. I mean, he's a liar. That's him. He's a naughty person, a wicked man, and a liar.
That's right.
Verse 14. Forwardness is in his heart. He deviseth mischief continually. That's what this is all. It's
Carlos Anderson, the water. Y'all watch me out. The water. Go ahead.
It says he deviseth mischief continually. He soweth discord. That's all this is an ill intent to sow discord between the true children of Israel, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Americans.
Yeah, takes natives and Hispanics out of the transatlantic slave trade, right? So takes a slight at them, then goes and takes a slight back at people, going, "Whoa, the minority of that chart is even Black." Number one. And this is also what people have to understand, right? That according to the Bible, Judah and Levi are the two biggest tribes. That's biblical, right? So you can say the minority, but if you deal with raw numbers, in fact, Judah and Levi is outweighing a lot of the other tribes, just according to the prophecy that the Lord would increase Judah and Levi more than the other tribes. That's Jeremiah 33, right? So, but there's a lot of things that this guy doesn't understand and can never understand. So he's going to do things like get up on there with his white colleagues and buddies and misrepresent us.
You see how he conveniently left the Haitians out and the tribe of Levi?
He goes, the Jamaicans, and then like the rest of the chart. Wait a minute. How do you leave Haitians out? There's more Haitians than Jamaicans. You do know that Haitians is the third highest population in all of the Caribbean. You understand what I'm saying? Why are we leaving that out behind only Cuba and the Dominican Republic? Why are we leaving that out? You see what I'm saying? And that doesn't count the Haitian diaspora, which is one of the largest diasporas in the world. And that doesn't count that the 20 million estimated people of the Haitian diaspora that don't even identify. None of that is being talked about. You see what I'm saying? So of course, he doesn't even need this because he doesn't really care about Black people enough to know any of this stuff. Just great. Let's keep going.
You know what I mean?
Dwayne Bowman, y'all about Shim Yao Shah Brakatah Wat the Water.
Because the other groups are Zebulon and you've got Cuba and Simeon and Issachar, Mexican.
How many Haitians live in Cuba? How many Afro-Cubans are there? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're Cuba, and you don't even know about Cuba, nigga. What are you talking about? If you go watch any TV show depicting Cuba, you're going to see a group of people just standing off to the side, and it's going to be every shade of brown. Like, what are you talking about? Who's the most famous Brazilian of all time? a black person, Pele. You see what I'm saying? So it's granted we're all the various shades of brown, but look how grossly he's misrepresenting us here.
Yeah, and going back to what you're speaking on about Cuba,
the so-called Negro
damn devil
for Yaquam. Go ahead.
There's almost 500,000 Haitians living in Cuba, number one, and the second most spoken
Well,
language
it's Haitian Creole in Cuba. Weirdo. What about the Afro-Argentines? You even know who that is? Have you even heard of that before? You ever heard of Afro-Argentines before? Come on, man.
Brought over on some kind of boat, but in reality, they actually outnumber.
Yes,
wow.
but not as far as actual adherence. I sometimes will maybe, because they believe they've got to get the right amount to equal 144,000 from each tribe. And so, for example, Gad are said to be the Native Americans, and yet Reuben are Seminole, meaning you have one solitary Native American tribe pulled out.
The level of ignorance, first off, Seminole Indians are not one tribe. The Choctaw. Do you understand that the Seminole Nation is a confederacy of tribes from the southeastern states, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida? The level of ignorance here. What about all the Seminole Indians that went into Oklahoma, went to Texas, went to Mexico? You don't even. I'm not gonna lie. The level is frustrating. The level of ignorance, and he's sitting here speaking as if he's an authority on our beliefs. And he's saying these things with so much ignorance. The Seminole Indians are not one tribe. They are a confederacy of distinct tribes. And what makes them different from the rest of the North American Indian is, unlike the rest of the North American Indians, they did not enter into treaty with the United States government, and they're at war with the United States government to this very day legally. Did you know that? That's what makes them different.
Idiot.
God, man, this is
and he's saying it like just because they share, you know, the same borders or similar borders, as if, you know, the Haitians and Dominicans are not on the same island, but
exactly.
You know,
there's something that separates Reuben from Gad prophetically, spiritually. There's something that separates Levi from Benjamin. Because you go, oh, well, Haiti's technically in the West Indies. That's why on the visual chart we have, it says Commonwealth and Dutch Caribbean. I'm very concise when I say that, because Benjamin's really the Commonwealth and Dutch Caribbean and the Afro-Central Americans. That's really who's covered under Benjamin. Because somebody could be simple, well, Haiti's technically in the West Indies. Well, there's something that separates us from the rest of them. All right. And if you actually knew these people groups and you were familiar, you would be able to understand spiritually what separates all of them. Give me a second Ezra's real quick. Right? Because spiritually, there's something that separates all of us. There's something that we all have a unison, a uniform spirit as the Israelites, as Black, Hispanics, and Native Indians. There's something about all of us that links us all together collectively, but we have unique distinctions tribally. Haitians have a unique distinction spiritually from other West Indian people. If you knew this and you interacted with us on any serious level, you would understand that and have a distinction, as the West Indian and Haitian have a distinction from the Negro of America. You understand what I'm saying? The same way a Mexican and a Central American, they have different spirits. Like the Puerto Rican and the Dominican, they have things that make them unique culturally, but not just culturally, spiritually. Right? Give me what I need.
2 Ezra 2:18. For thy help will I send my servants, Isaiah and Jeremiah, after whose counsel I have sanctified and prepared for thee 12 trees laden with diverse fruits.
Exactly, laden with diverse fruits. So we all produce our own diverse and unique fruits as tribes, right? There's things that's unique about us. You could say, there's things that we all share in common. You could say, that's Israel. And then there's things you say, man, that's Judah for you. That's Levi for you. That's Ephraim for you. You understand what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
From the people, some of who actually their ancestors, so it's kind of weird, Muskogee Creek, pulled out and left.
No, exactly. Muskogee Creek. That's what you don't understand. You think Seminole is one tribe. No, but it's Muskogee Creek, the Chickasaw, things of that nature. That's Camden, no, Salakia, not Chickasaw, the Creek. That's what I'm thinking about, the Creek, who have been all banded together. And they're one distinctive tribe, and they went through distinctive things, and they have a distinctive descendancy. Genius.
Alone here as Seminoles are Reuben, and yet all the other Native Americans are Gad. Sometimes I'll say, how many Seminoles have you guys converted? How many Seminoles?
See, and this is another statement of ignorance. There's a lot of Seminole Indians that are Hebrew Israelites. You have somebody who's a top Seminole Indian, powwow leader, drum circle leader, etc. That's a Hebrew Israelite. What about the Algonquin brothers? They're not Seminole, granted, but the Algonquin brothers who approached us last month here in Atlanta and talked about how vast the Hebrew Israelite awakening is amongst the Native Americans. Just because you don't see them partaking in quote unquote one West Hebrew Israelism or on the streets with us, there's a whole other world that the Native American deals with on the reservations, in the powwow circuits, etc. Right? And there is a vast awakening there. We just saw 2 Native Americans on a Jewish televised show going into how they understand that they are Hebrew Israelites. This just happened. I just put it on my Instagram. Go to our Instagram right now, Exodus 17:15. You'll see. Matter of fact, while I'm talking. Go ahead, play it.
Festivals.
My people have many things in common as far as the traditions and sacred things concerning, for example, there was a celebration of new moon. There was a 7th day of rest. We didn't eat swine. There were cities of refuge. We celebrated 7 sacred feasts during the year. And so there were many commonalities that we found.
We have Hebrew words in our language, celebrations of new moon festivals. Like I said, there's so many things in the traditions, the customs, the spirituality that just go beyond coincidence.
For example, my people's traditional name, the Cherokee's traditional name for ourselves is Anikatuaya, which means the principal people of Yah.
The Cheyenne tribe, which means people of the fringes.
People of the fringes.
Their cousin tribes, the Shoshone, whose symbol is a rose. We find
Shoshone, which is the rose.
Like I said, there's so many things.
Nigga, you're cut. And these are Native Americans saying this. And there are people that you don't think are Native American because they look black and you're so myopic. Whatever. Right? But we got all the tribes up in this awakening in numbers. Understand that.
Mic check. Y'all hear me?
Con, you in the building?
All right, come.
All right, let's keep going. He's cut.
If you need 12,000, how many Seminoles do you have right now? It's the Seminole inclusion, as Ruben, I think, is on a rather weak chart, the weakest link of all.
There's nothing weak about the chart, and it certainly isn't the weakest link of all, because you have absolutely no idea who the Seminole Indians are. And you don't know how many Seminoles are in Mexico. And here's the thing about Vocab Malone. He's leached onto the YouTube.
I think you're muted.
You said what?
I hear him.
I can't hear you.
I hear you.
I hear him.
Yeah, it's technical difficulties on here.
Yeah, you got to fix that, Deacon. So anyway, whatchamacallit? He limits himself to YouTube and what he sees in the cities that he goes to. He does not factor in the awakening that's going on the reservations right now. He's ignorant to that. But there is a large Hebrew Israelite awakening that's going on the reservations. And I was told this by a high-ranking Native American chief himself in the flesh. That video can be seen on Sicarii Water. An Algonquin chief looked me in the eye and told me that they understand these things. Right? So you can say and feel however the hell you want, not to mention the awakening that goes on in Mexico. You have to understand this movement supersedes YouTube and Facebook, which you're limited to. Right? Which that's the only way you can really observe this movement is through YouTube and Facebook. Right? But we really in these trenches. There's things that go on that we are not talking about on publicly, but we know about that goes on behind the scenes. You understand what I'm saying? But you're ignorant, and you're going to stay ignorant because the outer court is for the Gentiles, pal. Let's keep going.
Yeah, doesn't that? I mean, damn. Going back to the point originally where you had the position that is, your descendant, who you descend from matters. Like you said, the outer court is for the Gentiles. So
exactly. Well, that's another point. That's another cut on that. Let's keep it going.
It's really odd. Okay, so can you give us another one? Is there another point?
Yes, there certainly are. Virtually all modern day Jews, to them I'll put it in scare quotes, are religious and ethnic imposters. They're frauds. Jews are not Jews. They're actually Amalekites.
So the land of Israel is populated by imposters.
They love.
Oh, get Ezekiel. Get Ezekiel 30.
They hate the Bible.
Let's see if that's a biblical concept that the land of Israel is possessed and populated by imposters.
There we go. That's good.
Ezekiel 36:5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God: surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey.
Edomites put Israel into their possession. Now Revelations 2 and 9.
Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. I know thy works and poverty and tribulation. Sorry, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan.
So we see the prophecy talk about the Edomites, which Amalek are Edomites, putting the land of Israel into their possession. Then I see a group of people who are going to be perpetrating a fraud to be the Israelites. This is they're acting like these are just far-fetched. You have to understand, everything we believe, unlike everything y'all believe, is coming out of this book. And there's precept upon precept for it too, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Deacon.
You know, give me Luke chapter 21, verse 24.
It's crazy. We were just talking about this in the spirit of the Most High. You people, man. You people are finished, man. I'm going to tell you like that.
Luke 21 and 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Wow.
Now, Vocab will agree the times of the Gentiles has not been fulfilled. And we understand that that's talking about until the time of the Gentiles get their judgment. So the Bible says that the land of Israel will be trodden down and occupied by non-Israelites until the coming of Christ. That's simple and plain. Hey, they forgot to erase that out the Bible.
Yeah. So
right.
The question is, what do we now do with that? Like, what are we to conclude with that scripture, other than the people who are there must be imposters? There's no other conclusion.
Yeah, just sweep that under the rug, man. That doesn't mean that.
Vocab, but Jen Henry, hold on real quick. Jen Henry, that's a question I wanted to highlight it. What is Vocab's nationality? An Edomite. All right, go ahead. Hold on, let me keep going.
Love to say, if we're not the people of the book, who is? Those crackers over there in Israel?
Yeah.
That's right!
Wow.
Hey, thou sayest. His beautiful
crackers.
And he's German.
They love to say that they love to ask it that way.
Yeah.
And here's some of their lines of evidence. They'll say they're successful to control everything. That doesn't look like the people of the book who are going to experience these curses for disobedience. And they'll say, how could this be the people of God? Don't you know that one of the biggest gay pride parades happens every year in Israel?
Yeah.
That's something I said to him. I said that to him.
These are all great. These are all great points. Hold it.
This can't be the people of God.
You know, that really strikes me as odd as well, because that almost seems like an argument for keeping the Black or African American population in this country impoverished, so that they sort of fit the template. Because if they become prosperous, then they don't fit the template anymore. Like, do they lose their elect status?
Here's the problem. When are we going to become prosperous, Michael Heiser? Scripture says there's a way in which we can become prosperous. We've been in your country. We've been under your thumb for half a millennia. We have yet to become prosperous. What in the hell is it going? Like, who has ever taken what people group can you ever think of that has taken them 500 years to become prosperous? There's only Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the only people it's taken 500 years to become prosperous on a level as a people. The East Indian has not been coming over here longer than 100 years. They're already prosperous. African immigrants to America have already became prosperous. Asians have already became prosperous. Arabs have already became prosperous. Every damn white person that's came over here, Irish, Italian, etc., have already become prosperous. We yet have been here longer than all of those people. We haven't become prosperous. We haven't been prosperous since we've encountered you people, right? So it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen by our own will. It's not going to happen by any economic reform by anybody here in America. It can only happen when who the world calls Jesus Christ is sent by his Father, the Most High Yahweh, to save us, deliver us, and put us in our kingdom.
That's right. That's
when we're going to see prosperity as a whole.
Or something?
Well, they would say, don't you remember Israel under David and Solomon? They were successful because they were keeping the laws of the Most High. And so we don't want to stay in this condition. But it's very interesting because this religion basically wanted to be a theodicy, but it turned into blaming God for the whole evils of the transatlantic slave trade. That's what ends up happening on it.
Okay. So
wow.
Here's the thing: vocab. You hypocrite, you liar, you devil. I got to stop you. Here's why I have to stop you. Here's why I have to stop you. It's very simple. You are a Calvinist. You're a Calvinist. So you believe everything that happens to everyone is predicated upon the predestination that the Most High God had already set. Right? Am I wrong, Deacon?
Slakia, what did he say? What did he say?
Calvinist.
I'm saying he's a Calvinist. He's a Calvinist. So he believes that everything is predestined anyway.
Yeah, he does.
So if you believe everything is predestined, you believe God is responsible ultimately for the transatlantic slave trade. You don't disagree for what we do in that regard, that God is responsible for the transatlantic slave trade. The difference between me and you is I have a logical explanation as to why God allowed that in prophecy. You don't. So your theology clashes with the transatlantic slave trade and your explanation for it. Mine doesn't. It's fluid. That tells you something. That tells you something. That tells you who is more on point with this book, man.
Yeah, let me read a scripture real quick. Let me read the scripture real quick. Because just like this transatlantic slave trade, the captivities of Israel. I'm sorry, I gotta find it. Go ahead, Salakia.
So let's move ahead.
Because it had to happen as their punishment.
It was a judgment, yeah,
for disobedience.
Yeah. Salakia, I found it. Perfect. This is Jeremiah 15:14. It says, "And I, who's speaking the Most High, will make thee to pass with thine enemies into a land which thou knowest not, for a fire is kindled in my anger, which shall burn upon you." So we know the most gruesome captivities for the Israelites were the Babylonian captivity, this modern captivity, and also the expulsion of the Roman captivity, the Roman era, the Roman captivity.
You gotta add Egypt in there. Egypt, Babylon, and this modern.
Right, Egypt as well. So, and we see that happened in result of us breaking the commandments and the Most High putting the curses on us, or putting us through these captivities. And it's crazy because when your daddy James White, Vocab, your daddy James White did his free will debate. I think he did it against I'm not sure who he did it against, but he said that these things aren't just happening in time and then God has to take control of them as they're happening or as they're unfolding. That would be a God that doesn't have everything under control. And so that's the ideology of the Calvinist or the Protestant, is that everything is predestined to happen just the way God wanted it to happen. So I don't know, maybe he's abandoning his Protestant and Calvinist theories I don't know. Or maybe he's just doing what Yatab said and coming on here being a liar.
Yeah, you know good and damn well he ain't abandoning Calvinism and Protestantism. I'm going to tell you that now. That's what he ain't doing. Go ahead, I appreciate it.
Lamentations 2:17. The Lord hath done that which he had devised. He hath fulfilled his word that he had commanded in the days of old. What's that? The curse of Deuteronomy 20th chapter. He hath thrown down and hath not pitied, and he hath caused thine enemy to rejoice over thee. He hath set up the horn of thine adversary.
That's the Bible. That's the Bible. That's what the Bible says, and this is what you people, just like it calls you people. This is what you people have a problem with. This book. You have a problem with this book. The Holy Bible, the word of the Most High Yahweh. You have an issue with this book. And that becomes overwhelmingly evident every time that we put you under a microscope. Period. Let's keep going.
Picking our people up. And a lot of the groups have nation somewhere in there.
Lord and Christ. Let's get that phone off. I got you, Tom. Let's just mute your time. There we go.
Either in their literature or actually in their name. There's a group in LA called the True Nation.
Shout out to those. Shout out to True Nation. Doing that work. Fig and Florence, goddammit. All right. Crenshaw and Slauson. All right. Them brothers doing that work.
So they think they're nation building when they wake people up. And that's why some of their titles are not just elder and deacon. They're general and captain.
Yeah, well, we are. He said we think we're nation building. We are nation building. We're doing the same thing. Here's what's funny, right? There was this article I just saw on Facebook. It was an article a year or two ago that talked about two young so-called black women who had opened up a beauty supply and a hair store in the Inland Empire in California. Now there's a new article, an update on that business, that they went out of business, and they went out of business because the Koreans basically shut them out because they kind of had a monopoly on that industry. So what occurred is I made a post on Facebook and I said, this is a result of Koreans loving each other, preferring each other, nation building with each other. This is something that we are learning to practice amongst ourselves, which helps to further and advance us and put us in better positions. Of course, this is not going to lead us to achieve a level of prosperity because it's truly unachievable in this glass ceiling society without Christ coming and saving us and putting us back on top. But this does help us better sustain ourselves. All right. So with that being said, yes, we are nation building. Vocab.
Okay, there's something confusing me here. So if they're going to use the Torah, where let's just go with their view here, so that you've got a bunch of black people.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Deacon,
wow.
Deacon, did you watch this?
Oh man!
Before we played this, you watched this. You didn't tell me you said black people. You got a bunch of black. What about our Hispanic membership, man?
Right.
What about them? Of course, they never get talked about.
But you've got a bunch of, black people who are actually the Hebrews, and they're enslaved in Egypt. And according to the biblical story, they are delivered. They're taken out of bondage, brought to the promised land and all that sort of stuff. So that would seem like they were awakened. So why would God punish a group of them later?
Vocab's got it.
In the slave trade. Like, why would God do that?
You're saying, why would he punish a group of, well,
in other words, if this group, if what we think of as the Israelites or the Hebrews were black, and they're in Egypt, and God takes them out of Egypt, to Sinai and the promised land, just the simple biblical story, why do we get a subsequent group of them punished in this?
It's so nice. I know Vocab's going to answer this right, because I hope at least. I'm saying I know.
He does.
He does it? God, that's bad. Michael Heiser, ask yourself this. You know what I want to say, right? Ask yourself. Right? So ask yourself this, right?
Okay. Edomite bastard.
Why was there captivities in the book of Judges under the Philistines, under the Canaanites, under the Moabites? Why was there a captivity under the Babylonians, under the Assyrians? Why was there captivity under the Persians, under the Greeks, under the Romans? There was a lot of captivities that occurred before the transatlantic slave trade. And the answer is simple. Matter of fact, Where's that book at?
What you want?
You know the one I got, the Bible timeline.
Oh.
It's like right over there. Look over there for on top of in that box under the hats. So like it, it's very simple. And this is a book I got right in Walmart. Just grabbed it. It's got some good information. But there's a very simple concept that these Walmart book publishers understood about the Bible, right? And I'm gonna show it to you. Most I will. If there we go. There's the book. All praise Yahweh. Yeah. So let's see what this concept is. This concept is real quick. What's that? First of all, look at this fake. Look at this fake stuff. All right? Well, hold on. Where's what I mean? Look, they got the whole armor of God. It's a Roman centurion. Imagine that. Right, but they do have some good information in this book, right? This is the book, hold on real quick, y'all. It's called the Rose Book of Bible Charts, Maps, and Timelines. It's got some good information. I got it at Walmart. It was $23, $22.99. Hold on, man. It's the maps section.
I got a precept.
Get that precept in the meantime. I don't want to find this real quick. Look. It's got it's got all the cults. See, look, Christianity and religious cults. It's got this. This is good for you, vocab. All right. Got Christian Science, Unification Church, Unity School of Christian, New Age, Wicca. Got its cults. Soon enough, they'll have Hebrew. It got Farrakhan on there. You got Farrakhan in the book. All right. Get your precept.
This is Nehemiah chapter 9, verse. I'm gonna just start at 9 and then skip to the point. It says Nehemiah 9 and 9. And did see the affliction of our fathers in Egypt, and heard us their cry by the Red Sea, and showed us signs and wonders upon Pharaoh. So remember, like this. What's the Edomite's name? The doctor.
Oh, Michael Heiser.
Heiser. So he said, "What?
Here's the point. Go ahead.
Led out of Egypt. So why are they going to save you again?" I'm gonna jump to verse 26. Nevertheless, they were disobedient and rebelled against thee, and cast thy law behind their backs, and slew thy prophets, which testified against them to turn them to thee, and they wrought great provocations. That's why. The same reason why the Israelites always went into captivity, because we broke the laws of the Most High God. We disobeyed him.
And that's what they have in this book. Israel disobeys. When Israel disobeys God, Israel is oppressed. Israel cries to God. God raises up a deliverer to deliver Israel from their oppressors. Israel is delivered. Israel is at peace. Then the cycle, unfortunately, begins again when Israel disobeys. So why did the transatlantic slave trade and the conquest of the Americas occur? Because Israel was being disobedient to our God. We were practicing idolatry. We have formulated all type of pantheons in West Africa and in the Americas that we were following, and they were in direct violation of the first commandment. So, of course, the Most High sends oppressors to us. We were oppressed. Now we're crying out. Now the Most High is getting ready to send our deliverer in the form of his son, who you call Christ, real name Yahweh Shai. Then we'll be delivered and be at peace. But this peace will be perpetual, and we will never disobey again, because we will enter into the new covenant. It's very simple. It's very simple. A high school dropout, me, understands that. Why can't the PhDs? Let's keep it going.
Slave trade.
Well,
I mean, it seems like if you're forgiven and delivered once, why are you? I mean,
the curses are perpetual.
Is it the exile thing? They link this to the exile.
They like to say the curses are perpetual,
Okay.
and so they might point to say Judges, where there's a cycle of
That's what the cycle I just showed. That's crazy.
oppression, and then God raises up a judge, and there's deliverance, and then there's success, and then people fall back into sin, and then the cycle gets repeated for 400 or so years. They might say that's what happens, and they will use some of the New Testament language. Well, it's prophetic language of a stiff-necked people as well. They'll speak about that, or hard hearts.
They may not. It may not work itself out in actual slavery, but it could be some other unfavorable situation. Some perceived exile, something like that. that sort of makes the subsequent populations fit this template.
Yeah, and not only that, but when you talk about 70 or even what happened after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, they'll say the result was not just these punishments for sin and the dispersion that happened of Israel throughout the four corners. It's also forgetting who she is, not actually remembering, because that's why it needs to be an awakening happening to tell people who they are. So sometimes the street preaching is, hey, don't you know who you are? Your ancestors are written about in this book. You have a royal destiny, things like that.
So in some sense, this is linked to the old, lost tribes kind of thinking as well.
Yes.
The old British Israelism stuff, and except, obviously those two things are incompatible, the British Israelism and the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Anglo-Israelism beat the Hebrew Israelites of the stripe we're talking about by about 100 years, about a century. And some of the arguments are literally flipped on their head or repurposed. Just one quick example. They used to say British. If you go into the Hebrew, you've got the word for covenant and then ish, the word for man. So British is covenant man. This shows that the land of Britain is populated by covenant men. The Hebrew Israelites teach, and this is not a joke, what I'm about to tell you. This is not a fundamental belief, but this is part of their alt history. The Dark Ages are called the Dark Ages because a black aristocratic class ruled Europe. And so...
Okay, for the record, just so everyone is very clear, the Dark Ages are not called the Dark Ages for that reason. The Dark Ages were called the Dark Ages by later people because they looked at it as a dark time in history full of religious oppression by the Roman Catholic Church. That is a large part what the Dark Ages, why it's called that, all right? That does not take away from the fact that black aristocratic families had control over much of the world of that time, including Europe. The Stuarts, the Stuarts, which identify with Stuarts, which goes back to the word swarthy, which means dark skin, right? What about the black man? What about the Black Boy Tavern? Can you tell me about the Black Boy in England? Can you tell me about Louis, when he's described on wanted posters as a tall black man? Can you tell me about that vocab, since we're just making this up, right? I did a whole presentation on this years ago called Black Nobility in Europe, right? But the Stuarts, who King James is from, which Stuart means swarthy, dark-skinned person, who identified themselves as Jacobites, descendants of Jacob, British, men of the covenant, right? And I heard somebody was trying to dispute that. What was the disputation on that, Yatab? And also called themselves Anglo, means angelic, Saxons. Saxons means sons of Isaac or Isaac, which comes from the Arabic. Isaac, which is Isaac. The angelic sons of Isaac, which are Jacob, Jacobites, and British, all hinting towards them being Israelites. And of course, Stuart being swarthy, being black people, right? But Yatab, what was that whole thing with the British thing they were trying to dispute?
I think Mike Perea was or Abu, maybe. I forgot though.
Whoever the hell Mike Perea is. Let's keep it going.
As evidence for that, they point to the name of Britain or the British peoples as saying it's evident we were there and in charge because of the name is a leftover remnant. You have covenant man there. They use the same exact argument.
So you had like Caucasians steal that designation or something like that.
Yeah, like they steal everything.
Exactly. Like they steal everything.
Yeah, not sure.
Like this country that you walk around in pompously.
Right.
Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, okay.
That would be the way they would think about it. Like this, and King James was one of the very last black aristocratic rulers of the Dark Ages. King James was black.
But that's not even the Dark Ages, though.
They have to stretch it to King. I know it's not.
Well, technically, when you look at the Dark Ages, it ended in different times and different places as far as what the Dark Ages looks like, right? Technically, that's the Renaissance, though. We understand that's post-Renaissance. We get it. But one of the last rulers, meaning he was one of the last, his family hadn't got overtaken yet after the time of the Renaissance. Because we don't, first off, for the record, when does the average Hebrew Israelite contend that the Dark Ages ended, Deacon?
I don't know what they think, but
1492, right or wrong?
1492.
1492. That's 100 years later, 100 years before King James. So we do not say that King James was during the Dark Ages, but there was a throne. The Jacobite succession was established from the Dark Ages, and it hadn't been discontinued yet by the time King James sits on the throne. You have to. The Bible says what? Understand first, then rebuke. Vocab, you've done all this study, you've had all this obsession with this segment of the community, yet you still do not fully understand the argumentation of where we're coming from enough to truly be able to rebuke it from a biblical standpoint. You do so many things in ignorance so much. You do so many things in presumption. Even to this day, I would have figured after 3 years of your obsession with us, you would have figured some of this very base level stuff out by now. As your comprehensive PhD bound mind. But apparently I'm wrong. I'm mistaken.
Stretched by almost 1,000.
I know it's not, but so they're not. The reason I'm saying it that way is to let you know they think King James is black, but also they have to do that because they use the King James version of the Bible, and they can't have a white.
No, we don't have to do it. Personally, I'm not even going to have an argument with anybody on the color of King James. I don't care. I can use any version of the Bible. It has no implications. Who translated the Bible has no implications on the word because we can take a look at the analysis of source documents. We can deal with decipherment of Greek and Hebrew and Latin and Aramaic, etc. We can deal with that. So it doesn't even matter who translated the book. We'll use how many translations we use. We'll use your translation. We love going to the New Living Translation. I use the Good News Translation. Plenty.
White guy being in charge of it.
Oh, that's very odd. Okay, what else? No, it is. It's really odd.
So all modern day Jews are imposters, they believe.
Right.
They believe they're Khazars by and large, but who are actually Amalekites.
Khazars, which means swine.
Yeah, long story. And then
that's not a long story.
How is that just like such a big joke? Just laughing like it's
you have no idea who the Amalekite, if there are descendants of Amalekites that exist in the earth, and who they are. You have no idea. So to laugh things off is what we call, one of my favorite terms I coined, intellectually irresponsible. You don't know. You admittedly are ignorant to whether descendants of the Amalekites would have went. So for you to say that it's far-fetched that the descendants of the Amalekites went to Khazaria, founded the kingdom of Khazaria under Kagan Bullen, and did a massive conversion to Judaism, you can't speak to that because you admittedly are ignorant to it. So how can you discredit somebody else? Let me just keep going. The Caucasian, get my Caucasity shirt. I'm gonna get my Caucasity shirt in a second. A lot of Caucasity today. I've been witnessing too much. I'm having an overload.
I have on here.
Remember Undercover Brother? Caucasian overload. Caucasian overload.
Just it has a little bit to do more with praxis. Just to note the nature of it is that it's highly it's a system of syncretism.
Okay.
It blends elements of Judaism, of New Testament Christianity.
Salakia, Soldier Nakawan had a beautiful precept. So 27 to 28. Mockery and reproach are from the proud, but vengeance as a lion shall lie in wait for them. Powerful precept. Beautiful. All praise Yahweh Shem Yahweh. That's what's lying in wait for them, vengeance as a lion.
Christianity, and even sometimes some other things as far as for the practice and really even to a certain extent beliefs. And that's part of the reason why it's troubling or damaging, meaning if Hebrew Israelism only entailed, here's what I think my ancestors were, or something like that, that wouldn't be such a big deal. But it's like an anchor that weighs everything else down. And then when a person who was a professing Christian gets into it, they start off as, I'm a Hebrew. And next thing you know is the Trinity is a Roman pagan concept that I can't abide by.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And they get more into, well, we got to keep the law.
It becomes a hermeneutic. It becomes a filter for.
Yes, it becomes a hermeneutic. Yes.
For everything else.
Yeah, it's a as Daniel Dennett says about evolution being a toxin or a toxic poison that affects it's acid that corrodes everything. Is his language. Hebrew Israelism is like that with the person's belief structure as well. You could start off.
Give me John 3. Give me John 3. I'm getting ready to copyright Caucasity before they steal the vocab. I have to steal it before I look up. I need to go copyright that thing. Go ahead. born again?
John 3:5. Jesus, Yahushua answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, I need a point.
Okay, verse 7. Marvel not that I say unto thee, ye must be born again.
You must be born again, right? So you being born again means the theology that I once thought I knew, that I was born and raised with, I have to deprogram from that. And I have to learn something new. So it's not far-fetched, according to the words of Christ, Yahushua, that you will put away the previous indoctrination that you had when you truly come to him. This is what you're supposed to do. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jesus answered, John 3:3. Yahushua answered and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God.
You can't see the kingdom. So you have to be born again. So you have to put off those things like the Trinity. You understand what I'm saying? These are things you have to take out of your mind and then read the scriptures without this presupposition, and then you realize you don't see it. It's not there.
Kind of innocent, I think I'm a Hebrew, and ends up denial of deity of Jesus and salvation by grace through faith alone.
When do we deny salvation by grace through faith? We didn't deny salvation by grace through faith. We never. Do we deny that? I didn't deny that.
The next thing, though, on that, I mentioned the syncretism. The next thing we've touched on, I believe, a little bit, is the 12 tribes of Israel have been identified according to Scripture. So one Westers, go to Genesis 49, look at characteristics of the tribes, and then match those up with stereotypical traits of modern-day peoples.
I love when people say that we're doing things based upon stereotypes. I love it. The only thing that they can say is a stereotype is Mexicans are hard workers. But it's a stereotype that's very true. And listen, to take this from a guy who moved from Southern California to Atlanta, Georgia, and has an unhealthy fast food habit, all right? Mexicans are hard workers, brother. There's no way around that. Call it a stereotype. Call it what you want. It is what it is. They are hard, efficient workers. But outside of that, right, which is certainly not the only shred of evidence that we have to come to the conclusion that the so-called Mexican are the tribe of Issachar, several other ones, historical artifacts, and other very key prophecies that suggest these things. And it's very familiar with it from their customs that they practice as pre-Columbian Aztecs and things of that nature, and the other tribes that are in that region of Mexico. Outside of that, what can you say is a stereotype that we are doing a breakdown upon, predicated upon Genesis 49? You also totally neglect Deuteronomy 33, which are both two blankets for the tribes, but then there are other prophecies that are specific to those tribes, right? Salakia.
To associate them together. I'll just give you one example. Sure. Genesis 49 speaks about Issachar, and it says, we saw.
What did I know? There he goes. That's the only example that you can allege, or you can even try to tie to a stereotype.
All the land was good and enjoyed a rest. Different translations will say it different, but the point is Issachar enjoying a rest. Okay, they say if you go to Mexico, they take siestas.
Not if you go to Mexico, Mexican people, no matter where they are, you can go look at places where Mexicans work today. Any place that has an influx of Mexican employment that involves hard labor, they take siestas. All right? But that's one way how rest is good. The ultimate application is when you deal with the historical documentation of the discovery of the capital of the Aztec Empire known as Tenochtitlan. They saw that rest was good and the land was good, right? The siesta is not the stereotype. You would have to say the hard working is a stereotype. Mexicans taking siestas is not a stereotype. It is a cultural practice. This is the caucasity of this nigga, man.
After lunch, it's like a nap time of relaxing in the middle of the day. And they say the siesta is a partial.
Hold on. Look at this. Sean Antonio. I do construction. They eat hot food, then take a nap, and they fall asleep so fast. That's not a stereotype. They do that. It's their culture. This is crazy, man.
Evidence that Issachar are actually modern day Mexicans.
Boy, you know, I used to think that.
Now, here's the thing, right? If you isolate that by itself, it could seem asinine, that one thing, but it's not just that one thing. It's a whole body of things that leads us to this conclusion. That's one thing that is a cultural symbol that connects back to that prophecy. But there is an entire body of things that lead us to believe not only that they are Israelites, but they are Issacharites in specific, in particular. See what I'm saying? Again, the caucasity.
Nothing could trump the ancient alien hypothesis for non sequitur logic, but you're
this devil, Michael Heiser. Deacon, do you hear that?
Yeah, he basically said this is worse than believing. This is almost worse than believing in aliens. This is what he said. That's how bugged out we are.
We're talking about the ancient aliens, not just aliens. Not just the aliens. The ancient aliens, that crazy show that's consistently debunked. He said, but see, this is what happened. And then look at Vocab smirking like the devil he is. This is what's hilarious, right? If what we said was so asinine, right? If what we said was so asinine, why is this dude obsessed with us?
Right.
Why? And here's one thing. Fringe pop is what we believe more logical, or the World Mission Society Church of God that believes Jesus is a Korean woman and a Korean man, and God has a wife who's some Korean broad that's walking around right now. What's more illogical? But of course, because the niggers and the spics are doing it, it's really illogical.
Right.
Just call it what it is, man.
You hate the black man. You hate the black man.
We're pushing the boundary.
Yeah, so the rest referred to in Genesis 49 is evidence of siestas.
Not just siestas. Why don't you talk about Tenochtitlan? Why don't you talk about that? Why don't you talk about the story of how Mexico was founded? Why don't you talk about the story of the Aztecs finding what is now known today as Mexico City and building an empire with hydroponic gardens all over it before your people came and destroyed it and decimated it? Why don't you talk about that?
Fucking devil. My bad. It's locked.
You're all right.
Being in the Bible. Let me show you just one version. He saw that his resting place was good and that the land was pleasant.
Why doesn't he go into he is hired? Because again, that's the stereotype. But notice he's not because even Michael I go down. I mean, the Mexicans they do got the job. They are our workers now. Right? Even Heiser would have to see that.
Is he breaking down the verses at all? Like, or is he just saying you guys?
No, exactly. He doesn't have a viable antithesis. He's just saying it's crazy to think that.
So what's that? What is that talking about?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Why doesn't he tell us who that's really talking about then? Instead of just reading it, they're acting like that verse just isn't even there until we start reading it. Why don't you guys tell us what it means then? Yeah.
So he leaned his shoulder to bear a load and became a forced laborer. You can imagine what they do with that.
Right.
Well, have you ever heard of encomienda? Did the Spanish not the people of Mexico to a system called encomienda, where he forced them into labor and then took all the proceeds from all the labor that they did and sent it back to Spain? Was that a thing? Did that happen in history? What about the Genosaros? Are you familiar with that vocab? You're from Arizona, or you live in Arizona currently. Are you familiar with the system of Genosaro that took place in Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado that the Mexicans were subjugated by white people, or the Native Americans, the Navajo, were subject by white people? Why don't we talk about that? Oh, we don't want to talk about that though, because they were all made to be forced laborers.
And who forced them?
Yeah, and then exactly, Heiser and Malone. That's who forced them.
Right. It sounds like a racist slave.
Sure. You know, so they use that. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between the saddlebags. So yeah, that's one that they use. with Benjamin.
Hold on, why don't you break down Issachar being a strong donkey? Why don't you break down the symbol of the donkey with the 2 sacks? When you go into Tijuana, you see that symbol, right? You see that as a symbol of Mexico, the burro, with 2 sacks on it. Why don't you talk about that? And why don't you talk about the parallel between that animal and its hard labor and the Mexican and their hard labor? But no, you want to just dismiss us? Try to eisegete one aspect that you think is the most easy to attack and try to attack it, and you can't even attack that properly, you devil. That's crazy. Yeah. That's really crazy, man.
Who they say they say Benjamites are like Jamaicans. Benjamin is a wolf. He tears his prey. In the morning he devours the prey, in the evening he divides the plunder. The key is Benjamin is a wolf. What do wolves do? They howl. They actually associate the howling of the wolf with reggae music. And they'll say how the Benjamites do what's called, it's a phrase they use, chanting down Babylon, which means to sing against the oppressive power. And they actually use wolf language.
This is like, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but this is like totally detached from
the text itself, right?
Well, not only from the text, but in many cases, just reality.
I knew it for reality. I just knew it. You're the devil of the Bible.
Well, that's a really outlandish thing to say.
Gray alien.
It's detached from. Certainly detached from what your people have forced the world to follow. It's most definitely detached from that, but detached from not only the text but reality itself. That's amazing.
You know, this is almost like, I mean, okay, flat earthers are still, you know, like the craziest to me.
Flat earthers are still the craziest. Well, not that I'm saying I'm a flat earther or anything. Can you go into the text though? I want you to go into text and demonstrate, and I want you to debunk flat earthers with the text though, Michael Heiser. I would love to see you do that.
Okay, so we're not in that territory, but I mean, what I'm hearing is these are like textbook examples of non sequitur thinking.
Yeah,
you know, the confusing striking a correlation between 2 things that may or may not be coherent at all.
Here's the problem though. We're not striking a correlation between 2 things that are not coherent at all, because we first apply the prophecies that describe the state of the Israelites in general, the nation in general, in the last days. We first do that before we ever did research to figure out what tribe was what. First, we identified the generalization of who the Israelites were, predicated upon prophecy. So we're looking at everything from the prophetic lens, which is preeminent, period, biblically, because it's the word of the Most High. It's all thus saith Yahweh, thus saith the Lord, right? So with that being said, we take a look at the prophetic framework. We see who fits what the prophecies say or the Israelites would be. We identify those people in general. Then we look at the description and the spiritual look of the tribes, right? The spiritual description of the tribes, and then we pick the tribes out of the greater group of people who have been identified prophetically. So there's nothing nonsensical about this. We're not drawing parallels out of nowhere. We are going through prophetic hermeneutics, and we are deciphering the scriptures through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua.
Right.
Something you can never do.
That's right.
When you think about how long we've been doing this with these guys now, isn't it crazy that all this time we still haven't heard them break down Genesis 49 yet? Not once. What does it mean? When are they going to do that? I don't know. I guess never.
Never.
They'll just tell us what it doesn't mean. They'll never tell us what it does mean. It might as well just not even be in the Bible where they're concerned, man.
Listen, it's like the non-messianics. We run into them. They can't tell you who it's talking about. Just it's not Jesus.
It's just not Jesus. Oh, that's not talking about Jesus. I don't know who it is, but it's not Jesus.
Crazy, man.
But then leaping to causation, so you confuse correlation and causation. There's word fallacies with the sounds of words going on here.
English do that a lot. They do that too. Denmark is Dan's Mark.
Right. It just
what?
First off, it's not a word fallacy. Here's why it's not a word fallacy, because he's alleging that with the British thing. That's what he's saying is a word fallacy. How is it a word fallacy when you cannot go into any etymology dictionary and find out what British etymologically means? It is something that's ambiguous. They're not sure as the meaning of it. So you cannot assert that it's a word fallacy because admittedly, the people who documented this etymology are not sure where it comes from. So you, again, just like with all this, if you don't know, you can't say something's a fallacy or wrong because you admittedly do not have the answer.
Don't know.
You don't know.
Right.
The caucasity, man. The caucasity never ceases to amaze, man. Hold on, I gotta get my shirt. 1 second. Yeah, hold on. All right. Rude, disrespectful, or audacious behavior exhibited, especially by entitled Caucasians, man. They've been on a rampage today. A damn rampage. First, we had Amber Geiger. Sidebar, we have Amber Geiger, who murdered both of Shim John last year in his own apartment in Dallas, Texas, Dallas police officer. She goes to testify in her murder trial today, and she have the nerve to say no cop would ever, she told a predominantly Black and Latino jury that no cop would ever intentionally harm an innocent person. That was Caucasian. And I want her to understand that nobody on the jury who was Black or Latino believed that, because they either have been harmed or know somebody who was innocent and was harmed by police.
That's right.
So that, yes, right? Point blank, period. All right, Jose, after the Shabbat, you can get it at urbangorilla.com. Rude and disrespect, then, you know, rude and disrespectful, audacious behavior exhibit, especially by entitled Caucasians. Man. This is exactly what's going on. But that's why the Lord said, that's why his praise will give you that he is taking it from the wise and giving it unto babes. Please, I love that scripture so much. When dealing with these guys, that scripture is so, really go claim your inheritance. That's exactly right. All praise Yahweh.
Right, yeah.
Go ahead.
Matthew 11:25. At that time, Yahushua answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes.
That's why Yahushua thanks the Most High, because Michael Heiser and Vocab Malone don't get it. But the high school dropout gang members and the dregs of society, the people who are poor, the people who are oppressed, they get it. They understand the Bible. These PhD assholes don't. Go ahead.
1 Corinthians 1:27-28. But God had chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of the world and things which are despised hath God chosen, yea, and this is my favorite part of it, and things which are not, nothing. People basically who are looked at as nothing, things that are not, to bring to naught things that are. So people who are looked at as nothing are going to bring to nothing people who are looked at as something, like these two Edomites right here. They're going to be brought to naught, thus saith the Lord God.
That's right. That's right.
And then like you were saying, mouth of babes. These guys went up in the Bible college, they dedicated their whole life to try to teach the Bible. This wasn't nothing we ever said to do. We did all day, and all of a sudden, we saw something that made us go, oh, God was saying, these guys are they've been training for Bible school, learning Hebrew, to come up with
that audio is bad. Almost everything you said was just totally mumbled on.
He was sounding like T-Pain.
My thing's going out.
It sounds very man. You was saying like T-Pain.
Repeat that.
Yeah, this is the trip. None of us sat out. We didn't set out to do this. You know, them guys with Bible to play this game.
Every time you're going to make a profound point, it just does you wrong. Satan. But yeah, like Well, basically, what he's saying is, I got a grip. What he's saying is, none of us sought out in our lives to do this. We all were living our lives, and then the Most High brought us in this thing. He called us. All of y'all set out to go be theologians and go to Bible school and go to seminary and become PhD scholars. Y'all all set out to do that. We didn't. The Most High grabbed us, stopped us dead in our tracks from what we were doing, and brought us in. We were truly called. You were never called.
I mean, it's really detached from anything that you would call either scientific or reasoned data.
Well,
now we're not going on any reasoned data.
Just make it up.
Well, okay, Dr. Michael Heiser. Yeah, have you ever heard of Dr. Nani Dakwa? Because he's a PhD scholar, and he has a whole book about how we're the Israelites. Did he? I mean, he's a PhD. He went through the proper doctoral methodology in his publication. I mean, does he lack reason? Of course, because he's black. Just say it.
let's say I was a Hebrew Israelite right now, and I just heard you say that. Well, that's just your white supremacy education coming through.
Well, and guess what? But even people with white supremacy education, understanding, have produced scholastic works that have affirmed what we believe.
Where you think you get to define things. And if your Eurocentric understanding is all it is.
I actually wasn't taught that in school. See, I know that the human mouth can only make a certain number of sounds because we have a tongue and a palate and teeth and lips and things like that. And so linguists, okay, just pick Western, Eastern, I don't care, you know, pick a linguist on Mars, okay? They're going to know that the human person, the human mouth, can only make a certain number of sounds. Therefore, it's normal for sounds to be present in all languages. But when I say, you know, chin in Chinese, I'm not talking about this thing here. Okay, I'm using the same set of sound.
No, you're exactly right. But at no point are we making that point, though. That's the problem there. We're not making that point. So what you're now doing is you've built a straw man and you're attacking it. We're not saying that chin means chin every single time. Chin in Chinese means the same thing as chin in English. Again, you're asserting, this goes back to the point that he just attempted to assert. He's asserting now that there is a linguistic fallacy that's happening that he can't substantiate because he cannot etymologically define what British means. He can't.
But it has no correlation to what the language is doing at all. And languages are bigger than words. They involve grammar. Okay, that has nothing to do with sounds. That's really the way, you know, word formation, even written the language, you know, there are rules for that. So again, I don't have to be, I wasn't taught linguistics in school. I mean, it's just something that you pick up when I get to graduate school, you're exposed to it because my field was Semitic languages. That was my first exposure to this kind of.
He said, I didn't learn it from school, but you pick it up in school. Isn't that what he just said?
You learn it from school. Another lie.
They would probably say, you know, especially more in relation to your misunderstanding of history and all that stuff.
Right. But see, I can count up to 30 or 40. So I can count the number of sounds that a human mouth can make. I don't need an education.
I'm glad he could pause it. I'm glad he can count to 40 when I give his back 40 lashes in the kingdom of heaven. That's the only thing he needs to be counting to 40 for. God damn me.
Count it out loud.
And I can reason very simply and say, okay, if we have a limited number of sounds and you have people using their mouths and breathing and nasalization and all this all over the world because humans have the same set of lungs.
Right.
They all have. I'm going to make a finite number of sounds, and so it makes really good sense that all of the languages on Earth have the same sounds. It's just how they're assembled that's different. So again, that's just.
What about the remote African tribes that click talk? Asshole.
Well, the indigenous people here were doing that. They didn't make the g sounds. All they made was the k.
Yeah, the gutturals and things in the ear. Exactly. So even from the linguistic, what you're saying is every language on the earth is made up of the same sounds that are just assembled different. That's also untrue. Michael Heiser, you're just the devil. I'm just gonna call it what it is.
It's a grasp on reality of the human mouth and the tongue and the nose and all that. All the things that we all share. Okay, so I don't need any of that. But again, that's a rabbit trail. But what I'm saying is, it just seems like I'm a little startled that nobody's thought about simple things like that. You know.
Well, and with all due respect, Michael Heiser, you sat with Vocab Malone for 17 minutes, and over the course of this 17 minutes, he's giving you very limited tidbits of representations of our theology and our core beliefs. So for you to have this objection and understand that there are literally tens of thousands of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that are getting involved in this, and a lot of these people are formally educated, some of these people are even PhDs, you would have to understand that these things are not true objections that you have to our movement, because these things are not true objections at all. It's just you hearing something and going, well, what about this? And then that being it. There's truly no true value. There's no true depth to this conversation and to the objections that you're drawing predicated upon this conversation. So because of that, you're an asshole and you're a pompous prick, quite frankly, for sitting here and acting as if that simple thing that you're bringing up is a paradigm shifter for us.
You know, that in other words, to question the presumption that goes into some of this.
Well, the goal of having an identity that you feel is noble.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Is such a worthy.
And that's such a lie. Like I was saying, we could cleaved on to Islam and Mansa Musa.
Yeah,
the richest.
We just went to West Africa. We could have just went one step backwards to where we were. The Mexican could have just been an Aztec. The South American could have been an Inca. The Central American a Maya, and we could see nobility there.
Right.
We could have just went just before you guys got here and been noble. We didn't have to go back 2,000 years, man.
Yeah. First of all, when the hell has the Israelites been noble since King Solomon?
one time. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Let's go.
That when a person feels like they have found the place wherein to do that, the belief system that allows them to do that, to have an identity that's
actually much more coherent
and dignified.
You know, just because that comes from the gut, you know, the heart. I mean,
the argumentation almost is an afterthought.
Yeah,
it's almost.
Well, it would have to be because it's ridiculous, you know. But
no, the argumentation is certainly not an afterthought, because if it wasn't for the argumentation, we wouldn't be able to evangelize. Our evangelization efforts would be totally ineffective, and this movement would have never grown at the exponential rate that it has grown and the massive increase that has happened in the last 5 years of it, if the argumentation was not well thought of. And you wouldn't have been defeated in so many debates and conversation with Hebrew Israelites. If our argumentation was an afterthought and it was so bad, Vocab Malone, why in what you refer to as the most respectful debate ever does it go down the way that it goes down? Can you explain that to me? Why, when you went before Great Millstone Dallas, it went down the way it went down? If our argumentation is an afterthought, why did you struggle with so many points that were made? Why did you not have, and why do you still not have answers to very valid questions and arguments that Hebrew Israelites pose? The argumentation is an afterthought for Christians because there are so many pages and verses in this Bible that you don't even bother to think about dealing with and exegeting. But we do. And we have exegesis for these things, and you don't. Why?
The core issue, that makes a lot of sense. You know, Ancient Aliens, you know, that crowd does the same thing in that they reject Judeo-Christian accounts of creation, how we got here. And they also reject the mechanistic Darwinistic worldview. So the ancient alien hypothesis is just a middle ground for them. It's a meaningful worldview.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing with flat earthers. There's flat earther I talk to, and all the social media all begin to flat earth. You know, flat earth this, flat earth that.
Any other doctrinal points before we wrap up?
Well, since you mentioned the language, I think it's important when we talk about One West Hebrew Israelism to explain that they deny modern day Hebrew as being valid, real Hebrew.
Okay.
They actually call it Yiddish. Now I know Yiddish is two different things,
Right.
but that's
Modern Hebrew and Yiddish are two different things, for the record.
That's what they call it a lot of times.
But modern Hebrew is largely Yiddish, and what you have to understand are the hundreds of words and phrases, largely based partly in Yiddish and partly in English, that are introduced to the Hebrew language every year and logged as Hebrew words every year. Got that, Abu?
And so they have something they call Lashawan Kadash, which is supposed to be like pure.
Oh, Lashawan Kwadash, not Kadash.
Your tongue.
Right, the holy language or something.
And it's based upon the idea that basically every letter only makes one sound. And what they've done is they take out all the vowel vocalizations and make their own speculative vocalizations, supposedly based upon Paleo-Hebrew. And a lot of it just becomes the A sound. So a lot of times when you hear them speak, you're like...
Paleo-Hebrew had no vowels, but let's...
Deacon. Did you hear that? Did you hear? Hold on. Did you hear the PhD scholar that majored in Semitic languages? What did he say? Hold on.
I think he's going to elaborate on.
Oh, that's great.
Speculative vocalization, supposedly based upon Paleo-Hebrew, and a lot of it just becomes the A sound. So a lot of times when you hear them speak, you're like...
Paleo-Hebrew had no vowels, but let's...
So they offer their own speculative vocalizations.
Hold on. It's Paleo-Hebrew had no vowel. Listen, then he stops. Notice he doesn't elaborate. The nigga stops.
Which came by way of an angelic vision.
No. Notice he agreed as the PhD scholar. Now you're trying to discredit us with angelic vision, but the PhD scholar who majored in Semitic languages agrees.
Yeah, I got it. I'm about to try to see if he goes into it a little more on his channel.
You see that? What? What did he say? He stops. Okay, wait. Paleo-Hebrew did have no vowels, but then go into a speculative. Hold on. Can you tell us that our speculative understanding of Paleo-Hebrew and its pronunciation is wrong? No, you cannot, because according to you, any understanding of how Paleo-Hebrew would be vocalized would be a speculation, because there is no vowels and there is no diacritic marks indicating vowels. You're sitting on a couch with a Semitic linguist. Well, not a Semitic linguist, somebody who majored in Semitic languages. So like he clarified that he was not a linguist.
Oh, okay. Well, the angelic vision trumps everything.
So, according to one...
Hold on. How does the Semitic language trump any... How does the angelic vision trump anything when you agree with what was revealed in the alleged angelic vision?
Yeah, and Vocab is so... he's so adamant against... He just wants to prove us wrong so bad. When he says something like, there's no vowels in language, he expected Dr. Heiser, whatever his name is, to just laugh at, oh, these dudes don't know what the hell they're talking about. But then he agrees with the fact that Paleo-Hebrew didn't have vowels in it. So then he just slings some more mud in another attempt to make us look stupid. Oh, well, it came from angelic vision. Oh, see, now angelic vision, now it's stupid. But what if he would have said,
and you don't know what the Lashawan Kodash did not come from an angelic vision. It came from studying languages and finding out that Paleo-Hebrew had no vowels. The same thing that Michael Heiser studied when he studied Semitic languages. That this form of Hebrew, the most ancient form of Hebrew, was absent vowels. Again, you guys talk about Ariah having angelic visions and not understanding that angelic visions mean he had a dream and he woke up, and because of the dream, it compelled him to study. And when he studied, he found things. He didn't have a dream of a chart that floated out of heaven and had Haitians or Levites. He had a dream that made him go and hit the book. He had a dream that startled him and woke him up out of his sleep. what happened in the dream is irrelevant because it's not expounded upon. And what he's compelled to do when he has the dream is go to the school where there's a plethora of books and start researching in the books, and then he comes to conclusions. The same thing for the Lashon Kodash when he reads in books on the ancient Hebrew language and it says it's absent vowels. He goes, wait, it ain't got no vowels. So we should say it like this. These assholes still believe one person is three people.
Count Ariah had a angel who visited him in his apartment and was speaking a language, and Ariah did not.
Where did you hear the account of this dream? I've sat with men who at One West 35 years ago. I've never heard of this dream. I've never heard it go this way. So you know what I call? BS.
Right. Understanding, he said, what's that? He said, that's the language of your forefathers. Okay. And that was sort of the beginning for him to create Lashon Kodash, which they teach primers of Lashon Kodash. You can find the charts online, and you'll see everything is just the ah sound. So
what about I in, yeah, what about I?
Kwam Yasharallah means rise Israel, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you know a little bit of Hebrew, you can pick up.
A lot of yes.
Yeah, it works both ways. If you know the Hebrew, you can pick it out. So you know Hebrew enough, Michael Heiser, to say, oh, Kwam Yasharallah. It would be the same thing as Kum Yisrael, as you would say it in modern Hebrew. It's not. Once you know either one, it's easy to understand. Which is why Vocab asserts that it's not what we speak is not Hebrew, but it is, because it's still phonetically identifiable. He can identify it as being someone who has knowledge of the Hebrew language.
So a lot of times, if I have friends, because sometimes I'll run into these names because they rename themselves, like Tazadakia and Tazariak and Yahana, Tahar. Sure. They rename themselves, Gabar. I'll say, what is this? And most of the time, my friends who are more well-versed in Hebrew can usually pick out. But if a lot of times, sometimes people are like, I don't know where they're getting this one from. Sometimes it's a little tricky to find out exactly what they were trying to go for.
Let's go back to
what it means is Abu.
This will be
goes and asks Abu.
Our last point here. I had in my notes here kind of an obvious one. What about Jesus and salvation? Just quickly, what do they think there?
So they'll say, you mean the man who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, Yahushai. He came to do away with the need for blood sacrifice.
Now, you're also misrepresenting One West Hebrew Israelism. Only Israel United in Christ would contend that. Only Israel United in Christ would contend that, for the record. We are not of that school of thought.
This is the common view. Okay, sometimes
that's not common view. That's Israelites, the IUIC's view.
Have somewhat different views, but a most common view, for example, you can hear IUIC.
Okay, IUIC, all right, but don't say it's common, because IUIC has very unique views that make their congregation unique. All right, so let's not commonplace that with One West Hebrew Israelism. There's a lot of ideas and interpretations that were born out of the IUIC school that is exclusive to them, and or camps that have sprung out of them. I'm not saying that as a slight to IUIC. I want IUIC, if there's any viewers of the IUIC, to understand that I'm just making it clear that they are the proponents of that ideology, not by and large One Westers, as you call us.
Indicate this view. Come to do away with blood sacrifice, so we don't anymore have to slaughter animals. And sometimes they'll say made some changes to the law. For example, we don't have to stone adulterers right now.
Yeah, that's a misrepresentation, even to them.
But
yes, but he didn't make that change in the law. We're under grace. That's what they'll say. All right.
Salvation is still law.
Deacon, speak real quick.
Yeah. So he's going into what the so-called One Westers believe is how we get salvation, or who Jesus came for. Some One Westers, mainly IUIC, as Alizar brought out, they say he came to do away with the sacrificial law, him being the sacrifice, in which Vocab would agree with them on that, because that's also a Christian teaching as well. They teach that Jesus Christ, the ultimate sacrifice, that doctrine. And so he's getting ready to say, what was he getting ready to say before you stopped it, rewinded it a little bit, like a few seconds?
To slaughter animals. And sometimes they'll say made some changes to the law. For example, we don't have to stone adulterers right now.
Mm-hmm.
But salvation is still law-based.
So a lot of them are more sensitive to that criticism than they used to be.
That's what he was saying. Huh?
Yeah. Okay, keep going. Well, you already affirmed that, ultimately it's predestination. So you're chosen from the beginning, and if you're a Calvinist, you understand that as well. That
and you believe that,
right? So Vocab's gospel,
elect.
Exactly. Vocab's gospel is Jesus Christ died for the elect, and not the whole world. This is his gospel, right? And now, but he'll say we don't know who the elect are, but the Bible tells you who the elect is: the Israelites.
Facts.
So they'll say, no, we affirm grace, but it's very Mormon-ish, and it's God is gracious in that he allows you to earn your salvation. Or
no. That's another misrepresentation.
Or this is the means he's provided to do it. Or you could at least say it's a salvific alchemy, blending of grace and works.
But there's still, you would say there's still
like no salvation at all. First, that's crazy. If you believe, if you have faith, you will do the works. That simple, actually. You get a precept. Just get the precept. You're the expert.
I don't want
to. Go ahead, bring that gun out. Bring that gun you've been looking for.
I was really holding this. But,
see, Hassan got a new gun out. He's been waiting.
I'll bring it out.
Go ahead. Of the body. Of the mashpakaka.
Okay. Titus chapter 3, verse 8. This is a faithful saying, and these things I will that thou affirm constantly, that they which have believed in God might be careful to maintain good works. So if you believe in the Most High, you will have works to show for your faith.
You'll be very careful to maintain good works. Oh, wait. Did he catch a body? Chat? Did Officer Assad catch a body?
Caught that.
Ayat, he said the E-way people. He already identified the E-way.
It's a salvific alchemy. Salvific alchemy with blended faith and work. So I guess James was wrong.
Right. The brother of Christ.
Right.
Let's keep going.
A strong element of merit.
Oh yeah. Like you gotta do these commandments. You gotta do the law. You have to wear your fringes. There's a verse in the Bible that says the law is spiritual, and so sometimes they'll say you're not being spiritual right now, brother. Why not? You don't have your fringes on. The law is spiritual. You gotta wear your fringes. And so if you want to know a way to identify a Hebrew Israelite, for example, who's serious about it, not out on the street situation, they'll have sometimes fringes underneath their t-shirt. Okay. And that's what
I just told them.
You see the fringes. So the law is very, very important for salvation for them. Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to be hitting some more of this, because I'm going to want to know, okay, these are the things they believe, but when we meet again, we're going to want to know, well, how are these things defended, using scripture? Hopefully, well, I shouldn't say hopefully, but they have to attach this somehow.
Right.
Okay.
No, here's what's wrong with this asinine statement. They have to attach to somehow. You don't understand. We all were Christians or Muslims or whatever the hell we were. We didn't believe any of it. It wasn't until we read the Bible that we started thinking any of these ideas. So it's not that we somehow connected to the Bible. It's we read the Bible and this is where we got it from. This is crazy, man. This is really crazy, huh?
To scripture, so we'll hit that next time.
We'll get to the big one.
Yeah,
the big one.
Okay.
He's talking about Deuteronomy 28:68 and probably Revelations 1.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching Fringe Pop 321 once again. Please visit.
All right, enough of that devil.
dislike the video.
thumb down the video. Hold on, let me show this real quick. I'm gonna make sure everybody can see this. Make sure everybody see. Everybody should just go ahead and do that real quick. All praise to how about you. So yeah, Deacon.
That was real good. That was good. Covered a lot of ground. 2 hours worth of ground being covered. Vocab, you did what you do best. You played the devil. You had demons popping off you all in the show. You were redder than hell talking about Sicilians.
Yes,
right?
you don't turn red like that, man. They be getting brown, you know? They got too much black in them. Black. This group of black people.
Yeah, that was bad.
So
he's gonna accuse you of putting a filter on this video to make him look redder.
I see that coming.
Oh, it's live. So
it's live on StreamYard. He got StreamYard. He had to explain to me how the hell that works.
Yeah.
What I was saying,
Sergeant?
Slucking.
Anything closing? Go ahead, take us out. Whatever you got.
No, I was just gonna say what I was saying when my thing was messing up because you were speaking on out of the mouth of babes, and it's crazy that all these guys, James White, Vocab, Mike Freya, all these guys, they set out and spent money at a Bible college because they intended to do what they're doing right now. None of us intended to do this. You know, this is not what we were trying to do. We were all doing whatever we were doing, and the Lord came and got us from where we're at and said, no, this is what you guys are getting ready to do. So it's a completely different deal, man. It's a cold ordeal, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's a tremendous point out. Tremendous point. But yeah, man, I hope y'all enjoyed and were edified, man, on this blessed new moon. We're gonna again give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai and say Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.